Hey guys, today we'll be talking about human cognition and cognition in general in all animals, how cognition arises and how cognition works. And there are two views. One view would be the idealist view, and another view would be the materialist view. There is also another which would be somewhere in between. That view is about conjoining the materialist and the idealist perceptions. However, both of these views, the ideal views and the materialist and ideal conjoined ones are actually wrong. Only the materialist one is the correct one. This is because the ideal view or the ideal materialist conjoined view would be mind-body dualism or pure idealism. In mind-body dualism, it is said that our mind, or you could say our psyche or soul or whatever other word you want to use, is actually something separate and different from the material body that we have. And when we die, this soul or mind or psyche or whatever, this immaterial thing that animates us, simply vanishes from our body. And this has many problems. First of all, this is the view of pretty much all religions, and the main problem is that there is no physical evidence, and it's not even possible to have any physical evidence because the mind or soul or psyche is inherently uh, defined as something immaterial. So how can there be physical evidence of something immaterial? So it cannot be proven. That's one. Another problem is that how is this immaterial substance connected with the material body? Like, how is it connected? They are not the same thing. They are not the same type of substance. So how are they connected? There is no answer to that question. And I think Leonardo da Vinci tried to answer that they are connected to the pineal gland. However, pineal gland, it doesn't actually answer the question. Like, it's still, he's talking about what it's connected through, but he's still not saying how it's connected. Like, what's the mechanism? How does it actually work? How can an immaterial thing be connected with a material thing? It doesn't make sense. And another view would be the idealism view. An idealism view states that only minds exist and all that we see as material doesn't actually exist. It's an imagination. It has many problems. So the first problem would be the philosophical zombie problem, where if you believe only minds exist, what's stopping you from believing that only your mind exists and all other minds are your imagination as well? And there is no solution to that problem. This is also the problem of solipsism. There is no solution. It's absurd. It cannot be proven, and it has absurd conclusions. The only true cognition explanation for cognition can be the materialist understanding, because that is scientific, that is physical, that can be proven, and that was uh, mapped for psychology and psychotherapy and brain surgery, neurosurgery, and in the modern age, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is made by copying the functions of our brain. So materialism conception has the primary one that I believe in is the functionalism concept. So the functionalism states that human brain is an organ that creates the mind or the illusion of the mind as an emergent property from its function. So our hand has a function, and our legs has a function, and our liver has a function, our heart has a function. You get the idea? So our brain has a function, and we call that function the mind. Now, how does this function actually work? What is the mechanism behind our brain? So mind isn't actually a thing of itself. Instead, it's the term or label you put for the function of the brain. So you could say that handiworks is the word that you put for the function of our hands, or dexterity is the word that you put for the function of our hands, and you could say heartbeat is the word for the function of the heart, running, walking is the function of the leg. So mind is the function of the brain. Now, how does it actually work? So it works in a deterministic way. So I obviously don't think that free will exists, and that's another topic entirely. But for this topic, let's just focus on the mind and how it works. Sorry, the brain and how it works, and how the mind emerges. So we have our senses, and they would be our eyes, our skin, our tongues, our noses, our ears, and through them we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, and we can have touch and feel the heat in the atmosphere, or through some organ inside our ear we have this sense of balance. And these things are inputs from the environment, and the environment exists without us. It exists as a material. All there is material. We are materials as well. We are a complex machine that calculates these inputs from the environment to predict the future. I'll repeat that again. We are man, are a machine. And by man I mean all of humanity, not just male humans. So we are a machine, and we take inputs from the environment and compute the possible futures. And the way we do it is that whenever a feeling comes to our brain through the senses, our brain, or you could say our entire neural networks throughout the body, makes an automatic instinctual response we call emotion. It also creates a memory. The memory is attached to the emotion. Now let me explain with some examples. Phenomenon 1. You are walking beside a drainage channel that is open. So from the drainage channel there is a bad smell coming out of it, and through your nose you are feeling that bad smell. And the moment you are feeling that, a visceral and emotion creates inside your body that is out of your control, and it creates automatically, and that is the emotion of disgust. So the feeling of bad smell created the emotion of disgust. It also created a memory of you walking beside the drainage channel, and this memory is attached to the emotion that you just felt. So that memory is weighted by the emotion felt. So that memory would be weighted by disgust. Shortly after that, you experience a new phenomena. Now you are in a let's say garden of flowers, and there are beautiful flowers, there are very nice scented flowers, and you take in the fragrance. You once again feel the fragrance through your nose, and once again it creates an emotion automatically inside your body. It's the emotion of joy, it's the emotion of being happy and liking the smell. And it also creates a new memory of you being inside a flower garden. So now this new memory is attached to that new emotion you just felt, and this new memory is weighted by the good emotions that you just felt. So that's how feelings work, that's how emotions work, and that's how memories work. All right. So Now let's talk about intelligence. What would be intelligence? Now you have two memories which are weighted by their emotions. Now you would compare these two memories with each other. So while comparing, you would basically gauge their weights. So one is weighted negatively, another is weighted positively. And through that inference, you derive at the conclusion that in the future, whenever you walk past a drainage channel, you would feel bad, and in the future, whenever you are in a flower garden, you'd feel good. And you made that inference. It's something like if mathematically we say Newton's forward interpolation. What Newton's forward interpolation does is that it collects data from the past and the present to predict the future. So your brain is basically doing that type of calculation. It now predicts, it now expects in the future to that type of, if you experience that type of memory again, you would experience that type of emotion again, and it predicts that, and that is intelligence. So cognition would be the combination of the whole set of things, this whole set, the feeling to the emotion to the memory and to the intelligence part, and the whole thing is your cognition. That's all the brain does, and there is nothing more that it does. Everything that we do is basically on autopilot, and there is already scientific evidence for it. There is evidence that how when a driver drives a car and he steers it, he's actually already had decided to steer it on the right or the left based on the information he was receiving. So he was predicting the future constantly, and he had already decided, but he realized that he decided to steer it in one way or the other after his brain decided it. So he was aware of his own decision shortly after he made the decision, right? So our awareness of doing things is actually lagging behind our body being ready and even acting it out. So let's say, for example, you hit your hand in a very hot pot, and without even thinking, your hand would move away from it, and that's instinct, that's reflex. What my point is that everything is a reflex, not just that particular incident where there are separate cells for it. I'm saying that our whole brain is a reflex making machine. When I'm talking, it's a reflex. When you are listening to me, it's a reflex. Everything that you are doing is a reflex, but you do not perceive it as a reflex. Instead, you perceive it as your own will acting on things. However, it's an illusion. You do not have a free will. You have just reflex. You are acting in accordance with your brain's predictions that it's making constantly, and you are being aware of it after it happens. And so free will doesn't exist, and it's all deterministic, and it's materialistic, it's functionalism. That's my main point. So this video is actually a prerequisite for other videos I'd be making. The next video is probably about self-deception and how people actually just rationalizes their own emotion instead of being intelligent. So people may think they are doing something because it's reasonable or it's the intelligent decision, but that's not true. That's an illusion they're suffering from. That's a self-deception. Instead, everything that they're doing is actually automated, and it's automated by their inherent emotions that they do not have any control over. So they're just acting on their emotions. Everyone is acting on their emotions. However, while they are doing it, they obviously lag behind. Their awareness lags behind, and their awareness, as they do it, rationalizes their action or their decisions. However, so they think that their reasoning or decision came first and their actions came second, and their actions were dependent on their reasoning. However, in truth, their actions happened automatically. It happened based on the emotions, and they had rationalized it later. And that's how everything works. That's how every human being is. That's how every form of life is. And that is the video of the next, that is the topic of the next video. Thank you for watching.